Welcome to Abanyala Heritage. This is a story of a people built on identity, wisdom, and unity. Well, today we begin another chapter of leadership and community unity among the Abanyala. Among the Abanyala, leadership was never about one person. It was about the community. Elders played a central role because they were guides, they were teachers, they were keepers of wisdom. Through meetings and discussions, decisions were made together. Everyone had a voice, everyone had a place. Unity was their strength. When challenges came, the community stood together, they supported one another, they solved problems together. This is how the Abanyala protected their values. This is how they passed their heritage from one generation to the next. Leadership for the Abanyala meant service. It meant unity. It meant survival. Well, for their marriage, family, and social values, marriage is more than the union of just two people. It was the connection of two families. It was a bond of respect, a bond of commitment and responsibility. Traditionally, marriage involved everyone. Families participated, elders guided the process, every step followed customs, because marriage was seen as a foundation. The foundation for building a strong family and preserving the future of the community. Well, at the center of Abanyala life was family. Children were considered a blessing, and raising them was not the job of just two parents alone. It was a shared responsibility. Parents, grandparents, neighbors, and the wider community. Young people learned important values at home. They learned through stories, through examples, through daily life. There were three things the Abanyala valued deeply. First, they valued respect between a husband and a wife. And second, they respected the elders. And the third, they cared for relatives, because the family was not just a place of belonging. It was a school of culture, a school of language and tradition, passed down from one generation to the next. Through marriage and family, the Abanyala protected their identity, and they made sure their story would live on. A people's language is not only a way of communication. It was a bridge for the Abanyala. It was a bridge that connects generations. Through language, the Abanyala preserved their history, their beliefs, their wisdom, and the voices of those who came before them. The Abanyala speak Lunyala, a language that carries their identity, a language that reflects their unique way of life. Well, before books, stories were spoken, teachings were spoken, family histories were spoken from one generation to the other. Well, among the Abanyala, names carry deep meaning. A name can tell a story about the circumstances of birth, about the hopes of the family, about the connection between generations. The name Wanyala represents the people themselves. It reminds them of their roots and their shared heritage. For example, the word Omundu, it meant a person, and still does. It shows the value placed on humanity, on every member of the community. The word Abana means children. They are seen as the continuation of their family, the future protectors of the culture. Respectful titles like Papa, which meant Baba or father, and Mama for mother, shows the importance of family roles. The elders they were known as Abahongo, and the general name for men was Abasecha. It carried the responsibility of guiding the young through stories, through proverbs, and through teachings. They passed knowledge about life, respect, courage, and unity. For the Abanyala to lose their language would mean to lose a part of their history, because every word spoken in Lunyala carries a connection of the ancestors and keeps their identity alive. Today, preserving Lunyala is the responsibility of every generation, because a people who remember their language will always remember who they are. Let's talk about their culture, their ceremonies, their music, and the dance, because their culture is not only remembered through words, it is expressed through celebrations, through sounds, and through movements that bring people together. Among the Abanyala, traditional ceremonies were important moments to celebrate life, to honor customs, and to strengthen relationships. People gathered during major events such as marriage ceremonies, the naming of children, initiation, and general community celebrations. Families came together, elders came together, friends came together. Not only did they share knowledge, they also shared blessings. While for music, it played a powerful role. Traditional song carried messages of history, encouragement, happiness, and lessons about life. Through songs, the community remembered important events and celebrated achievements. Also, traditional instruments added a rhythm and energy. The sounds were not just for entertainment, they represented the emotions, the stories, and the identity of the people. Well, for the dance, it was also a way of expressing unity, movements, songs, and performance. It showed respect for the community and created a strong connection between people. Young people learned by watching elders, ensuring that culture practices continued from one generation to another. Well, during celebrations, special words were shared, greetings, praises, and words of wisdom. Elders used these moments to remind the community about respect, courage, kindness, and togetherness. Although in modern life it has changed things, traditional ceremonies remain. They remain an important part of Abanyala identity. They remind the people that culture is not only found in the past, it also lives through the generations that carry it forward. Let's now talk about their traditional beliefs, spirituality, and connection with ancestors. What did they really believe in? Well, long before modern beliefs, the Abanyala had their own understanding. Imagine that, of the world, of nature, and of the unseen forces. forces that connected human beings to their surroundings. For the Abanyala, life was built around respect for Were, the supreme being, the creator and the giver of life, and that is the name they called their god, Were, or their supreme being. For the Abanyala, life was built around a lot of respect. The community understood something important, that human beings were part of a larger creation, and that life required harmony between people, nature, and spiritual values. The ancestors, known as the Abasakulu, held an important place. They were remembered as the people who came before, those who built families, protected communities, and passed down wisdom. Their memory stayed alive through stories, through ceremonies, and through teachings shared by elders. Respect for the ancestors did not mean forgetting the living. It reminded the community of a responsibility, the responsibility to protect the values inherited from previous generations. Nature also had a special meaning. Land, rivers, forests, and animals, they were not only resources, they were part of the environment that supported life. The community believed that people had a responsibility to care for land and Mother Nature. Traditional practices brought people together to seek guidance, to give thanks, and to strengthen their unity. The elders really played a key role. They preserved these teachings and ensured the young understood the connection between the past and the present. As time changed and different religions came, many cultural values remained. Respect remained, community gratitude, and the honoring of their heritage. The spiritual journey of the Abanyala remained, and it reflects a people of who have always searched for meaning, for connection, and for balance between humanity and the world around them. How about their clans, their elders, and the legacy of tradition? Well, behind every community, there are family lines that carry memories from generations to another. Among the Abanyala, identity was not only about being part of a tribe, it was also about belonging to a clan known as Omukoka. Clans played an important role. They organized the community. They connected families to their ancestors. They preserved stories of origin, and they helped people understand their place. Within the river, within the wider Abanyala society, through clans, through the stories of origin, generations remembered where they came from, the responsibility they carried, and the values expected of them. The stories of each lineage were passed down by elders, keeping the connection between the past and the present alive. The elders, known as Abasaholo, were the guardians of this knowledge. They preserved traditions, they guided the younger generations, they settled disagreements, and they protected the wisdom inherited from those who came before. Among these beliefs, elders also held a respectful spiritual position. Some were believed to have special knowledge. knowledge of ceremonies connected to nature, including rituals associated with rainfall. Stories are still told today, stories of elders who could call for rain or stop the heavy rains through traditions, ceremonies, and prayers. These beliefs reflected something deep: the relationship between the people and nature, their environment, and the forces of this nature as understood by their ancestors. The land was not only a place to live, it carried memories, it carried identity, and the history of generations. To protect the land meant to protect the story of the people themselves. Today, the world has changed. Modern education, religion, technology, and new ways of life have influenced the Abanyala community, but the foundation built by their ancestors remain alive through their language, Lunyala, through their native names, their traditions, and their values. Well, as we come to the end of this journey through the history and heritage of the Abanyala, we discover a people built on identity, resilient, wisdom, and unity. But the story of the Abanyala does not end in the past. In our next chapter, we will step into the present and explore the Abanyala of today, their communities, their way of life, their contributions, and their remarkable individual who continue to carry the Abanyala name forward. Because a people's story, it is not only about where they came from, it is also about where they are going. The journey of the Abanyala continues.